Beautiful audience. I'll slow pan to bleed out the time.
Just froze.
Yeah, I just froze. Anyway.
Stop waving.
It froze?
No, I froze.
Oh, you froze. Okay.
Still live.
Okay. All right. Today, I am here to tell you about an issue that's been on my mind for quite some time. There is a huge problem plaguing our nation that the government's not doing enough to address. Fear not, we have a way to mitigate this problem on an individual level, to some extent. All it takes is a little bit of space. A backyard is preferred, but if you only have a patio, that would work too. Yes, I'm talking about growing some weeds. That's for the next. Clover and wildflowers specifically. Today I'll be telling you about why lawns suck, how we can make them better, and how to mitigate some pests that could get between you and your wildflower dream. Now with lawns, they originate in Europe, kind of a lush climate. With the pastures, they were multi-grass pastures for cows and the livestock to kind of graze across. Then it kind of became a common between castles in the woods to kind of have a barrier so you could kind of see when enemies were coming. In Scotland, they would use the short grasses as terrain for games. That's where golf originated, as well as lawn bowling. And then eventually it became kind of a status symbol to have this nice lush green turf that you could contribute a lot of resources to and not have anything produced from it. In Kansas alone, in 2011, 495,000 acres of lawn were in Kansas, according to Katie Schmidt, who writes for the Dead Arboretum. Scott Boyd, writing for the same company, stated that 30 to 60% of a person's water usage was attributed to maintaining their lawns. And that is 10,000 gallons of non-rainwater per year per lawn. That's a lot of water just for a lawn. And these lawns, they're very hungry. They require lots and lots of fertilizer. And fertilizer has a tendency of running off from where you pour it with rainwater and sprinklers, and can dump into our water supply and pollute our water supply, which is not good, as well as run off into ponds and lakes and cause algae blooms, which then will kill fish. It's a lot of destruction for the maintenance of this lawn that doesn't even produce flowers. Because it doesn't produce flowers and it's just one long green turf, it becomes something of a pollinator desert. It's just huge swaths of land that just are flowerless, and these insects just cannot live in these environments. And before you cheer, yay, less bugs, that means bees and butterflies too, and we like those guys. You know how everybody says save the bees? A lot of times they're talking about the European honeybee, but they really should be talking about the native bees, because those are the guys that save us from our crops failing. They are the most efficient at pollinating, and we really need to try to save these guys. According to Coe and others in their study called Modeling the Status Trends and Impacts of Wild Bee Abundance in the United States, the wild bee populations declined by 23% between 2008 and 2013, with similar rates observed in butterflies. So this is a real problem impacting us, and if we don't correct it, we are going to see extinction of several species, and perhaps we will see food shortages when crops begin to fail because they are too expensive to maintain or just fail outright. Now, I'm not saying we need to rip up our lawns completely. There are some benefits to lawns and reasons why we do maintain them today. We just can do them better. According to Danny Litford in his article titled Today's Homeowner, he describes how lawns can absorb excess water, they keep the ground temperature down, they produce oxygen because, well, they're plants, they reduce noise pollution, prevent soil erosion because you don't want the ground to be bare. And they're good ground cover for field activities such as, golf and rugby and such. Oops, scroll backwards. So one of the solutions is to plant clover, as I stated before. Clover actually used to be a part of the normal lawn up until about the 1950s, with the popularity of this herbicide called a broadleaf 2,4-D herbicide. It killed the clover, and eventually it was like, well, it kills the clover and the other weeds, so, well, guess what? It's a weed now. And this was bad for homeowners because now they got to pay for fertilizer to fertilize the lawn. Because guess what? The clover was doing that before. You didn't need fertilizer before that because it is a nitrogen fixer. And a nitrogen fixer will take nitrogen from the atmosphere and pull it into the soil so that the plants can use it. And clover is one of the legumes that can do so. There are other ground covers that can do this, but clover is kind of the famous example, and it produces these nice little white flowers that bumblebees just love. They're also they're low. They don't grow tall. They're low maintenance. Once you get them established, you can kind of just leave them. Don't need a lot of water. Like, they're really just kind of self-sustaining. So they're a great way to kind of at least save the bumblebees. But if you don't like clover, like I said before, there's other ground covers you can use. Our other solution that ideally used in conjunction with clover or another ground cover is wildflowers. You can interplant this within your grass or section off an area to kind of dedicate to a wildlife habitat. But this is important for butterflies because butterflies a lot of times will have host plants that they need, which is they will go in, lay their eggs on a specific plant that they grow into caterpillars and then become butterflies. Without these host plants, the butterflies do not lay their eggs and they do not continue. So that's why we're having declines in butterflies. Monarchs are a famous example laying on the milkweed. But apart from saving the butterflies, wildflowers are great because they're drought tolerant, flood resistant, they're food for the pollinators, so butterflies and bees. And as we said before, more pollinators means you get more crop, more food security, yay for everyone. But with all these wildflowers and clovers and stuff, you might ask, well, is this going to attract pests? And the answer is kind of yes, but you can mitigate this. They will be attracted to some of the seeds that the wildflowers and such put off, but you can repel them with planting some strongly scented plants and herbs like basil, thyme, clover, coneflowers. They especially don't like the smell of onions. You don't even have to plant that, you just have to toss out an onion there. You can have some humane traps. There's physical barriers like fencing as long as you have it like a 1/4 inch or smaller. And if you use wood chip mulch instead of other mulches so they don't bury into them. These are referenced by Lauren Nesson in an article titled Rat-Proof Garden, How to Get Rid of Rodents in Garden Spaces. And I will leave you with a quote by the University of New Hampshire. They wrote, by establishing native perennials and grasses in dense and diverse meadow planting, property owners can enjoy the beauty of a succession of flowers and plant forms and experience a renewed connection with nature. Done properly, wildflower meadows are ecologically friendly landscapes. Components that once established have minimal maintenance requirements. And with that, you too can plant your very legal alternative to grass.